Welcome to the ONS podcast with your host, Linnea Jacobson.
Thanks for joining us again for the ONS podcast brought to you by our partners at Face to Face Academy. ONS stands for Office of Neighborhood Safety. I'm your host, Linnea Jacobson, and I work on the ONS team. This podcast was created for departments like ours and community organizations to connect you to alternative public safety measures, programs, and your local growth and healing opportunities. Today, we're connecting with St. Paul Public Libraries, which is one of our long-standing city departments. Today, I have with me Rebecca Ryan, who is the Deputy Director of Library Public Services. She is a St. Paul native from the Mac Groveland neighborhood and a Metro State alumni. Prior to working for the city, she worked extensively in nonprofits and at both Hennepin and Washington County libraries. Rebecca has been with the city of St. Paul for 17 years this fall. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you, Linnea. I'm so excited to be here.
So I have questions for you. Vacation in the summer when it's warm everywhere, or vacation in the winter when the winter is dragging. Let's take a break and go somewhere in February.
Well, I love to go on vacation whenever, and I also love the winter. My husband, however, does not love the winter.
Yeah.
So he gets crabby every December when it gets dark. And so I figured out the best way to remain sane married to him is to go on vacation in December to someplace with more light that's warmer.
That's awesome. I wonder if that's like a dude thing, because my husband does the same thing. Like, he gets the itch around December, January. He's, everything is,
It turns February and he's happier, even though I'm crabbier, because I'm like, okay, I'm ready to be done now.
So break up the winter with a vacation. All right, next question. Complete this sentence. If I had an extra $3,000 today, I would...
No, like go on vacation.
That was too easy.
Yeah, that was way too easy. Well, I will bring it down a little bit and say I feel like there's going to be plenty of opportunities in our current like federal funding situation for me to donate. We're never going to make up for the loss of federal funds for organizations, but it kind of seems like our community might be going through a tough time. So I think that's what I would do with my extra $3,000.
That is so sweet. That's beautiful. Instantly, I started thinking about my Amazon bill.
Oh,
I'm so serious. Also with us, we have Callie Freeman, who is the Community Service Coordinator for SPPL. Callie has a master's in library and information science and a certificate in instructional design. She's been a librarian for 18 years and once served as the head librarian for McNally Smith College of Music. She's been with SPPL for 10 years, serving at Arlington Hills, Riverview, Sunray, and Rondo. Callie originally is from Mendota Heights, but settled into 40 Acres neighborhood of West St. Paul and has been there for 16 years. Welcome, Callie.
Thank you so much, Linnea.
If you were a superhero, what color would your suit be and why?
Ooh, I would like it to be green. I really like all things related to nature and trees, and anything I can do to blend into the landscape seems like a good way to go.
Okay, so what would your superpower be?
My superpower, my kids ask me this question all the time. If I had any superpower, it'd be that I could speak any language fluently.
Okay.
Without a second thought. Understand, read, say.
Communication.
Say everything. It's all about communication, and just to be able to interact with people that seamlessly would be incredible.
That's awesome. That's a really good superpower.
I just offer, if you want to be a nature superpower, maybe you could be like the stopping climate change superhero.
I could do that, and then I could
your
spread the
green
message
suit.
all over the world.
Yeah, in all
With my
different languages.
languages.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next question. Onion rings, French fries, or potato chips with your burger?
Ooh, I'm going to go French fries. Has to be particular French fries, though. Like, not JoJo's. It needs to be potatoey, but a little bit crispy. So a little thinner, but I'm going to go with French fries for sure.
I'm like the steak fries, the steak cut. Yeah, I like those ones because you get a lot of potato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With some Lowry's salt, and then never ketchup for me. I've always been yellow mustard. I don't like ketchup.
Yellow mustard on your French fries?
Heck yeah.
That's what my husband eats. He
Oh
loves
my
yellow
goodness.
mustard, and he'll dump a bunch of pepper on his yellow mustard because he's a weirdo.
Oh, I haven't tried that one.
Are you putting cheese on your burger?
I do put cheese on my burger.
I'm gonna have to get a burger after this.
I know.
I always have food questions. I'm realizing that I always have food questions for my guest, and I think it's this time of day because I'm not a real big breakfast person.
Yeah.
Unless I go out to breakfast, you know what I mean? So I kind of skip breakfast. So usually around this time of day is when I'm starving. Okay, let's jump right into these questions. Rebecca, what makes St. Paul Public Library such a resourceful hub for our communities?
I think it's a really interesting question, and we were talking about how libraries have evolved. They've always been community hubs, but I recently heard it described this way, and I think it's a great way to talk about it. So our public libraries are places, number one. So they're warm in the winter, they're cool in the summer, they have bathrooms and drinking fountains. And one of the things we noticed in the pandemic when we really shortened how much time people could spend was that we had a lot of people coming because they just needed a place to be. They wanted to be somewhere. They wanted to be somewhere around other people, hopefully in a situation that was comfortable for them where they didn't have to buy anything, but they just needed a place to be. The second thing the public library is a space. So it's a space to deliver services that the community is looking for, or a space to have access to programs and services that they might want or need. For example, one of the things we learned in our safety engagement was how many people are coming to the library to do their life. Like they might get on the computer, they might need to send a fax, because such things still happen. They might need to scan or email or talk to somebody, or they might have a question that they don't know where else to get answered. So they're coming to the library to do their life, and in many of our libraries we have services like, for example, at Rice Street, we're partnering with St. Paul Ramsey County Public Health to do the Public Health and Public Places program, which is maybe you get a blood pressure check. Maybe you're kind of worried about something and you don't know sort of where else to go, and you can go and talk to the public health nurse who's a part of the community at Rice Street. And then lastly, the public library is a place where you can find content, and that might be online. It might be in the form of a book. It might be a movie that you want to watch. It might be a program like tonight. There's a great Black History Month documentary program about Black women entrepreneurs at Arlington. So I was happy to come to the east side because that's where I'm going next.
That's where you're going next?
So there's content in all these forms, and it might be teens working in the Create Tech studio at Arlington, and they're looking to make their own content. So it's a space and a place for people to find content that they're looking for. So that makes it really flexible, and we're open. You don't have to buy anything to come to the public library. You just walk in. It's very low barrier. So I think that's what makes us important.
Now, I'm going to ask a question, and you may know the answer to this, but is there any rhyme or reason to where libraries are centrally located? We notice that they're built right in the heart of the community, but I feel like they're strategically placed all over the city.
Certainly there's strategy to that back when they were being built, in terms of how development patterns happened.
Yeah.
Now, in a case like Rondo, when they were looking to expand the Lexington branch library, there was a ton of community engagement and people really wanted it. I tell people all of the time, librarians, we hear Rondo Community Library, but people that live in Rondo hear Rondo Community Library. So it was really purposeful about being placed on the corner of Dale and University and purposeful community engagement with the neighborhood. So that happens when we're building new facilities, which doesn't happen all that frequently. But the old Arlington Hills Library, before it joined with Parks and Rec and moved to the corner of Payne and Maryland, was on Greenbrier because Greenbrier was the street that the streetcar was on.
Oh, okay.
They're intentionally places that are easy for people to get to.
Okay, that's good history. I'm glad I asked that question because that was good history.
There was some, I don't know all of it, but I know some of it. So
that's good background.
Yeah.
Callie, what are some of the programs that can be found in our libraries around the city?
Yeah. Well, as Rebecca said, the library is a place to do life, and we find ourselves with different needs and different interests at lots of different places in our lives. So for our youngest learners, we have story times and play and learn spaces where they can work on those early literacy skills and sharing and just getting ready for school. We also offer story times in more than one language. We have them in English throughout the system, but we also offer story and playtime in languages like Somali or Hmong, and really welcome families to come in and share. We also have homework centers to support students. And one thing that's special about St. Paul Public Libraries, I think, is a lot of libraries support our students from kindergarten through 12th grade. We are also open to adults. So if you have gone back to college and you need some help with making that thesis statement really, really excellent, and your kid has got some math problems that they need to get done that they're a little confused by, you both can go into the homework center and you can get the help you need, as well as there are supplies available. You need to do a science project, they've got poster board, they've got markers, they've got paint. So we try to just really make education really accessible, because our education doesn't end when the school day ends. We have the Fun Lab and Create Tech and other teen and tween programs that support creativity and exploration through arts and technology. We have our corner labs, which provide job support to adults. So searching for a job, gussying up their resume, practicing interview skills. We are available to help folks meet and get to that next step in their lives. We have a social worker that is there to help patrons navigate the complexities of like healthcare and housing and all of that. And then we have all sorts of arts and cultural programs that are happening throughout the year that really reflect and celebrate the diversity of St. Paul. And on any given day, there's something to do at the library, and it's free. All of it is free.
All of it is free.
All of it is free.
Right now, we're just kicking off our flagship kind of like one book program for the city of St. Paul. We do Read Brave every year. This year's book is Akata Witch, and you can stop in any library and pick it up. The author, Nettie Okarafor, I believe is how you say her name, will be here at the end of March visiting schools and giving a public program. She's really well known. I've read the book. I love this book. It's African Futurism, and it's about a young girl who's kind of like coming into powers that she didn't know that she had, and her journey with her friends. And so it's a chance to talk about themes in the book. It's a chance for everyone to read the same book. I was talking with, I think, a teacher on the way downstairs. She was saying they've Face-to-Face has been participating in the one book in Read Brave for 10 years.
Okay.
So it's that time of year.
Isn't that like the book club thing? And I think the mayor's reading the book too, isn't he?
Yes, indeed.
Yep, the mayor will come with the author and just have a discussion. And it's really, we're really centering books for young people. So teens, and they tend to have a particular theme that teens might be interested in.
So Rebecca, what is it that our local libraries are doing to create safe spaces? And what can we do as a collective to help?
Lots of people, I think, come to the library because they think it's a safe space. I think we're contributing to safety in the community just by being there, by being a place people can come. Like I said, it's warm. When you need it to be warm, it's cool. When you need it to be cool, somebody can help you with questions that you might have. So that's automatically helping our neighbors meet their needs. But sometimes, in the city, we talk a lot about optimal response. People in our community are struggling, and they come to the library with those struggles. And so we need to make sure that we're addressing those in a way that builds relationships, that contributes to that feeling of community safety. And so we have done a lot of work to imagine what a welcome and safe and comfortable library looks like and feels like, and what happens when people are crossing those boundaries that we set with our code of conduct and our community agreements. We've been working on how to have our own kind of library optimal response for that. That isn't necessarily always calling the police or isn't just letting it, whatever happen, but is intentional engagement and listening, de-escalation, and then we're still going to call the police if we have to, if a crime is involved. If it's a problem of violence that we can't solve ourselves. But we have come up with a couple new job descriptions.
Okay, tell us about them.
We got funding from the ARP funding from the city. And so we put in place a library safety manager, which we've never had before. So we've been working on safety for a long time.
Yeah.
And we took it as far as we could take it with what we know in the library, which is a lot because, we're librarians and we love to look things up and we love to think about how we can do things, but we're not experts in topics of emergency or crisis management. So we hired someone who is, and imagine he's helping us. So he is helping each of our libraries make what we're calling a playbook. So coming up with kind of common incidents. We are all using the standard response protocol from the I Love You Guys Foundation that I think other people in the city as well as St. Paul Public Schools are using.
Okay.
So that means like when somebody says hold, then everybody in the library system knows what a hold is, which means like maybe you're going to lock the doors, but really you're going to stay in place inside the building because something's going on inside the building that we want to isolate or that we want to give less attention to.
Okay.
So he's helping us create that playbook for each of our buildings and then do training on what that incident response looks like. And he's also managing our new safety specialists, who, I just want to brag, are so awesome.
Okay.
And
how many do you have now?
we have 5.
Okay. Okay.
Hopefully, eventually, we'll have 6. We're really making sure that we're going to get the right folks hired into this job. For years, we relied on contracted security or a patchwork of other things that were useful, but were not always like the right response for our buildings. Like we've had community ambassadors, and the 21 Days of Peace folks have been so helpful on the corner of University and Dale in particular, but just from a day-to-day engaging, building relationships with patrons, de-escalating, catching situations before they get too hot, and asking that person to leave the library results in like a big blow up, for lack of a better word. And then somebody who is trained in all of like the incident kind of management and objectives. And that's what our safety manager has brought to us, is the idea that like, okay, there's an incident. We all have the same objective in how we want to deal with that incident. That isn't something that we necessarily thought about before, or we'd try and de-escalate and like it was way past the time for de-escalation because we didn't catch it early enough because our folks were busy, helping folks with computer problems or like finding a book. And then they had to turn around and be like, oh, wait, that person is like
being inappropriate.
Yeah. And probably if I had talked to them before, it might have been like a little more successful. And now I have to talk to them and they're going to yell at me and cause a big deal on their way out of the library. But our safety specialists, because that's their focus, have been really, like I said, building relationships and de-escalating like when the moment is actually right for that. And they've been in place since the end of December, and we're seeing a drop in incidents at some of our buildings that have been most impacted. And so we're so excited about that.
That's good. I want to roll back to when you said building relationships, because I think, too, I know one of the things that I remember from working at the police department is it's if you're building a relationship with someone and you know them by name and you learn their likes and their dislikes, and you learn them as a person, it's easier to connect with them and detour things that may not be acceptable in certain places, right? It's easier to have those conversations. And then there's a respect that's built, right? So then, you have people who don't want to do certain things or who only want to do things the right way.
Kelly and I are sitting here nodding frantically on
Kelly,
the
Or
podcast.
who will advocate on behalf
Right.
of others, who will say,
Right.
hey, they're just asking you to do this. It's okay.
Yeah.
There's so much to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So-and-so's having a bad day, and we know. And so what we've been seeing with the safety specialists so far is, in some of our spaces, I will just say, especially Rondo, where it could be somebody coming off the light rail that you've never seen before. So that kind of day-to-day relationship isn't always easy to build. But it's that moment of like, okay, I'm going to notice you and see you and welcome you to this space and see kind of like where you're at today and just let you be a human and deal with you at that level, which I'm not saying that our library workers don't do that, but I do think it's harder when you're thinking about like the other things that are happening in the library. And this is the safety specialist's sole focus. Another great thing about them is contracted security certainly has their place, but they're not our staff. They don't report to us.
Right.
They're not trained in what we want them to be trained in. They might have an understanding of de-escalation, but it's not like a mastery of it always. They are well aware that they could be sitting in a parking lot, like watching the security cameras instead of in a public place, talking to people, doing a frankly more complicated job. So
Yeah, it's instead of keeping folks out or maintaining the barriers, I mean, what our safety specialists are doing are welcoming people in and just maintaining some of those boundaries, and are able to do the vibe check with the space in a way that library staff, because they are performing customer service, because there's so many things going on, having safety specialists who are building and already have come in with these incredible relational skill sets just makes all the difference in making the library just move a lot smoother.
And so we want people to feel safe when they are in the library. So we know people see the library as a place of safety. They come to us and they tell us that, and they ask us for things that you wouldn't believe they're asking us for, but they do. It's part of the reason I like my job. I have never gotten to the bottom of all of the things that people are going to bring to the public library. It's something different every day. And so to have folks who understand that and know that and can work to keep that a welcoming and safe and comfortable place for a really wide variety of people is really important to us. And I think that's what's hard about talking about safety sometimes, because sometimes people feel a little bit uncomfortable and think they're unsafe, depending on kind of what their experience is.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have folks coming into our libraries who are so far beyond safety in their like regular lived experience. Maybe they don't have a regular place to sleep. Maybe they've been assaulted. Maybe, there's a wide variety of things going on with them. And so to try and make a safe place for both of those people is, I'm not going to lie, really hard some days.
Two different walks of life trying to exist and live a life in the same space. Yeah.
And I do think personally what motivates me about this work is that I believe that's really important for our community to have that space where those two people can be together and that they both feel like a sense of belonging. But you can only feel like you belong somewhere if you feel safe there. And I think our safety specialists are really, really helping with that. And our safety manager and training staff and kind of like proper procedures, making sure we're kind of all pointing in the same direction when we're thinking about how do we handle, something even like a call to 911 when someone needs some assistance with their health, for example. So.
And everyone brings in, their different life experiences with that. I remember the first time I had to call 911 for something in the library, I was shaking. I had never called 911 before. I forgot my name, where I was, like total amnesia. But once you know what the process is and know what to expect, it becomes easier. And those networks that we have within our city to help in such situations, it just becomes a lot more fluid and easy. So that training is really helpful, I think, for staff.
I also just want to shout out to our colleagues across the city, particularly the Office of Neighborhood Safety, but also police and fire and parks. We're all in this together. And at certain points in my career in the city, that is not how I felt.
Yeah,
Definitely when I was managing Rondo Library, I felt like I was alone out there on the corner of University and Dale. But the networks that I think particularly ONS have helped us build have been really impactful and helped us know what to expect and that we can expect backup and help from our city colleagues, that we are all working to make this a city that works for all of us, I think has made a really big difference.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we all have a real good job of communicating and sitting down and trying to solve the problem. You know what I mean? Like we all have different roles in solving the problem, but we're really good at saying, okay, well, what's my role and what can I do?
Yeah.
So I agree. So Kelly, I'm going to jump to you because
Yeah.
I really want to know about this new launch that we've been hearing about called the Loop Van. Speaking of safety.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to give a little context for the Loop Van. So in February of 2024, after a Ward 1 meeting, 2 departments got together to apply for a grant. And so St. Paul Parks and Recreation and St. Paul Public Libraries, 2 of, the most public-facing and public-serving departments that I think we've got in the city, we got together and we applied for the After School Community Learning Grant, which was offered by the Minnesota Department of Education. And the folks that applied for that grant are the 4 rec centers in Ward 1. So we've got West Minnehaha Rec, we've got Jimmy Lee Rec, MLK Rec, Frogtown Community Center, and Rondo Community Library. The goal was, we were seeing a lot of the same kids. We also had a bunch of kids who were starting to kind of, they get bored when they're going to the same place all the time, but it's near their school, it's near their house. And as we dug into some of the statistics, we were like, oh, most of the kids in the neighborhood, despite the fact West Minnehaha is like maybe an 8-minute walk from Rondo Community Library, we're not going to other places. And why is that? Well, we also know from many community listening sessions and from just existing within the city of St. Paul that Rondo and Frogtown neighborhoods have some, there's issues for safe travel. Crossing University is not for the unaware.
Exactly.
You got to keep your eye out. We obviously know we've got 94 that is just like right through the center of the Rondo neighborhood. Just after the pandemic specifically, with the opioid epidemic, we had issues on the trains. And so parents, caretakers who may have one car, who are working, they can't bring their kids to all of the after-school activities they want. And so we were like, what would happen if we got together and instead of each of us offering our little menu of after-school activities, we started to view ourselves as and really try to show our youth that we are all connected, that we all have things to provide for you. And this grant was a great opportunity because the goal of this grant is to provide increased access to quality after school and summer learning opportunities to support academic, social, emotional well-being for our youth. And so we got together, we applied for this grant, we got nearly $1.5 million that's going to go through May 2027. And one of the big opportunities for us was let's get together, let's hire some staff. So we've got 2 community youth workers under the Parks and Rec side of things who are going to be driving a 15-person van around to all of those rec centers that I identified, to Rondo Community Library, Monday through Thursday. 3 of those days will also include going to our community partner, Black Youth Healing Arts Center, and we'll also be stopping by Skyline Tower. So we're trying to really eliminate the barrier that transportation and safe travels can put forward for youth and open up the possibilities to the kinds of programs that they can explore, that they're interested in, that they need. And I can tell you, having been the manager at Rondo for 5 years and having no green space, the amount of times after school, like kids go to Homework Center and they go to Create Tech, and then they are bouncing off the walls. The amount of times I was like, oh, if they could just go someplace and run around. Well, we've got that opportunity now.
Yeah.
Kids can go to the gym. They can at any of those rec centers. So they have kitchens, which the library doesn't have. They've got cooking classes. We've got homework centers. There's so many different things that youth can access if we just take care of that safe transportation.
You guys have made probably every single parent in Ward 1 happy.
I hope so.
Think about that mom or that dad that's at work and their kid gets done with school and they have to go to the library to do homework center. and then they need to go to that football game that they have over at West Mini or over at Frogtown, right? Like, think about that. Like, this was needed so many years ago. Like, so many years ago. You don't have the kids don't necessarily have to walk anymore. You don't have to worry about what they're walking through or who they're walking by.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about them getting there. Like, this is epic. So when was the launch of
The
this?
launch was a week ago Monday, so very new. And so the plan for the school year is it runs Monday through Thursday from 3 until 8 p.m.
Okay.
And we just go on the Rondo Frogtown Loop is called the Loop for a lot of reasons. We want to loop our youth into all the stuff that's happening in Ward 1, and we drive in a continuous loop to have regular pickup, drop off, and so kids can access all of these different programs and resources.
So how can parents sign their kids up or access the schedule to make sure that they can take advantage of this?
Absolutely. So if you go to the website, so www.stpaul.gov/the loop, you can get access to the permission slip. You can take a look at the activities calendar to see what's happening across all of the sites in one spot, as opposed to having to go to different websites to see what's happening.
Everything.
And you can also see the schedule, so you can plan with your kiddo. Okay, you get out of Central at 3. You can get onto the loop van at 3:10. Make sure you get back on the loop van so you can head back, wherever's closest to where they can get picked up or closest to their house. Yeah. So they can take a look at all that, drop off the permission slip at any of the rec centers or Rondo Community Library. We'll get you signed up and we'll get on the road.
Not to mention they have the Parks and Rec staff that are at the rec centers that can work to remind the kid, hey, so-and-so, you got to get on the van, it's coming, those sorts of things. So
absolutely.
That is really awesome. This is going to be a blessing to so many parents and so many kids. It really is like building community. You know what I mean? Because you have your own little hubs that you go to, your recreation center that you're doing all your programs at and all the field trips and all of those things. But now you can step outside of that and you guys are really operating as a community, as a whole.
That is, I think one of the biggest boons and potential wins of this project is that also at your library site, at your Parks and Rec site, you're doing your thing every single day, but to really start to view all of your programs as a whole, that your neighborhood is supporting you in all of these different ways. You get to see your neighborhood. I just feel like the opportunities for connection are so much larger than just the physical connection of going from here to there. Yeah. It's something beyond that.
Awesome. So what are your goals for serving the citizens of St. Paul? Rebecca, let's start with you.
Well, our mission in the library is to welcome people to connect, learn, participate, and grow. So that's what we want for people. We want to connect them with information. We want to give them opportunities to belong and to participate in whatever it is that they want to do. It's just maybe their life or just their community at the library, and to grow. And so that might mean looking for that next job opportunity. It might mean taking your child to story time. It might mean, I can't even tell you all of the various kinds of requests I've had over the years, but some that stick out to me are the person that was donating plasma that wanted a book to read while they were going to do that. I don't think that's people's usual idea of what people are coming to the library for. And I think also that's a part, that content piece that people are accessing, that they're using their imagination, that they're, in our minds, we're free. We can read whatever we want. We can think whatever we want. And I think building on that place and space of the library and giving people that access to content that helps them grow into what they want is really what the library is about.
I love it. Kelly, what about you? What are your goals for the citizens of St. Paul?
Well, I'll speak for the Rondo Frogtown Loop and what our goals are for that particular project. So, as mentioned with the Loop vans, our goal is to provide safe transportation to young people ages 10 to 18 so they can access the programs that interest them or meet their needs. We're also really working on collaborating with culturally affirming community organizations. So our partnership with Irreducible Grace Foundation's Black Youth Healing Arts Center. We are partnering with the Network for the Development of Children of African Descent and offering their Sankofa reading program at MLK and at Rondo. And also what we're looking to do is start some regular family learning nights, which the hope is that we're going to be building positive relationships with young people and their families, and also hoping that we can reach out to folks that are new to St. Paul, that maybe are distrustful of government organizations, that don't know about the resources and opportunities available through Parks and Rec and the library and the community partners that help us support these things. Also, the summer is coming up, and I'm looking forward to it being, I know, for the weather and so much more. We're just starting to think about what is this summer going to look like for the Rondo Frogtown Loop? How can we partner between parks and libraries in different ways? How can we make sure that youth have access to more of the community organizations that are throughout the Rondo and Frogtown neighborhood? How can we switch up our route a little bit just to continue to increase that access to all of the wonderful opportunities we have?
I love it.
Brother Giovanni from NIDCAD, when we were talking about the grant initially, was like, oh, yeah, it takes a village. Here's our village.
There you go.
Yep.
Our village.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much. The City of St. Paul is working to rehabilitate, intervene, and provide safer neighborhoods. Again, this podcast is about being able to connect with you on alternative public safety matters and your local programs, growth, and healing opportunities. If you'd like to learn more about St. Paul's libraries and programs, you can find them at sppl.org. If you'd like to learn more about Office of Neighborhood Safety and the Neighborhood Safety Community Council, please visit stpaul.gov/ONS.